If you know me, you know I often get falsely accused of being a smidge overcritical. Apparently, I'm the kind of guy who receives a sweet text from his girlfriend, and later when she asks what I thought about it, goes, "Oh, it was pretty..." Lies and libels aside, I know you all have been waiting so long for this random dude's opinion on the new Superman movie. I actually think it's alright. I'm gonna put my hands up and say I honestly expected to hate this movie a lot more than I actually did. But in my defense, it's not the first time we've seen snarky James Gunn-esque comedy ruin a fan-favorite stoic but charmingly funny superhero. Couple this with the bizarre clips that got released from the film for marketing purposes. Where's the dog? There's also the fact that it seems like the big man himself and audiences in general were really desperate to turn this into a political film, when I actually thought it was one of the most refreshingly non-political movies I've seen in years, honestly. Yeah, so let's just say that the movie has more than its fair share of issues, not least of which is the ending. I don't know, James, but perhaps we could have done without the 3 endings involving a freedom battle in an Eastern European country, a reverse Superman fight, the taking down of the supreme oligarch Lex Luthor, and a literal interdimensional portal tearing through the fabric of space-time itself. But what do I know? Anyways, if you guys want me to do a more in-depth critique of the film, let me know in the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Anyways, now let's get into what I actually like about the film. If anyone saw my video on Wicked last week, they would know that I really like well-written characters. And this is, to be fair, something that James Gunn's Superman 2025 has in spades. Let's start out with the one that I was most impressed by.
Miss Lane.
I'll be the first one to admit that I've never really been a huge fan of Lois Lane. Now, obviously, I know that Lois becomes way more popular in the Superman comics in like the 60s. And honestly, if you wanted to be a prominent journalist as a female at that time, you needed more disagreeable characteristics. The problem is that I found her leaning too much into whatever characteristic the writer saw fit. So if she was disagreeable, she'd be super disagreeable and snap at you every 3 seconds, or she would be super preachy, or she would be super willing, or she would be a complete nothing burger, which the writers expected us to believe was the key to everything. Couple all of these things together and you sort of have a character, quote unquote, that I can't really get that invested in. And putting a character like Lois Lane, who's supposed to be disagreeable, in the hands of modern superhero writers can only have positive effects, as we know. Taste it there. Num 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 num, eat it up. Go play okay, 3, 2, 1. And honestly, I'm not kidding, she's probably my favorite character in the film, barring one, which we'll get onto in a minute. Now, even though she's very matter-of-fact on the surface and a little insecure, all of this is sort of coming from a place of genuine care and respect for the people around her, which sort of grounds every one of her characteristics and makes you, like, vibe with her more, let's put it like that. Yeah, and I'm honestly really looking to see more of Rachel Brosnahan's Lois in the future because she was fantastic. Now, onto my favorite villain, Lex Luthor. Now, let me tell you this, folks. This is probably one of the best villains I've seen on screen in years. It is also hands down the best representation of Lex Luthor I've ever seen on the big screen. Certainly better than whatever the heck this is. Nicholas Hoult is great in this role. He is charming and petty and vindictive and super smart. Sometimes his motivations seem a little off though. Like, if I could create my own pocket dimension, I probably wouldn't need half of a small European country to, I don't know, build more stuff. But what do I know? I do think that him disliking Superman just because he's an alien is a little over the top. I mean, his motivation seems clear throughout most of the film. It's like, I hate Superman because he's better than me. Like, I'm not sure why the alien thing was thrown into there as like the central motivation in the last, I don't know, speech of the film. It's nice to have on screen, finally, a villain that I don't need to relate to. Like, sometimes bad stuff, get this, is bad. And we need to portray it as such. And now on to our main character, the central dude of the film, Clark Kent. I'll talk about him and then I'll talk about Superman. While I was watching the movie, I was wondering why we seem to have ditched the idea of Clark Kent being a little nerdy, a little unsure. Like, without the nerdy and unsure exterior that we have in the older Superman movies and the comics, it's hard to wonder why no one has put it together that Clark is Superman. I mean, let me put it this way. If I worked with Henry Cavill, I don't think it's a leap to say that he might be Superman, just saying. But yeah, Corn Sweat's Clark is not super nerdy, but he's not Henry Cavill either. He's like a nice in-between. He behaves sort of like a college frat boy. Make of that what you will.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Which leads me on to one of my major critiques of the film. Clark and Superman are the same person. Now, to explain why I think this incredibly obvious fact is a problem, not only to the film, but to you, yes you, in your everyday life, let's take a look at the drawing board or whiteboard. I don't know what I'm calling it yet, but okay. I think there are 3 things that make a great Superman adaptation. One is recognizing that Superman is the embodiment of America.
What the hell is a kilometer?
Right, his catchphrase is literally truth to justice and the American way. Yeah, so in the early comics, he's more of an American national icon rather than this general superhero. But there always is a big looming question around Superman. If he is so powerful, how on earth do we ensure that he doesn't go off the rails? And the answer for the early comic book writers, at least, was because he was America! And not in a pejorative sense, right? The idea is that the American values that are at the core of Superman, you know, growing up on a small farm and all of the values that are imbibed in that, are the thing that prevents him from misstepping. Sort of like how right after World War II, America is sort of the watchdog of the entire world. They have so much power, and what keeps them from stepping to the side? The values that are at the heart of the country. Second of all, Superman is a symbol of hope, and this one is slightly more obvious because the S on his shirt literally means hope.
It's not an S.
Because he's this super powerful dude that always does the right thing, it gives us something to aspire to as regular people. Also because he is Clark Kent. So Clark Kent is sort of you, and Superman is sort of the thing you can become. Finally, and most importantly, the one that I might get crucified for, Superman is Jesus. I know, most people think that this is a lazy comparison. It's like, oh, superpowered entity equals Jesus. Think of it this way. In superhero films, aliens have, for all intents and purposes, replaced the supernatural. So anything that is beyond our comprehension is not divine, it is alien. Okay, putting it this way, you could say that Superman is the son of something in the sky whose ways are higher than ours. At least some of the producers think that this is a valid comparison. Take Superman Returns, which I believe comes out in like 2005. Okay, in the final phase of this movie, Superman is beaten to within an inch of death by Lex Luthor and his goons. He's then left for dead and thrown into the ocean, where he goes down to the depths and picks up the thing that is about to destroy the world, and he zooms it all the way up into space. And when he's done with all of that, he makes this pose. Yeah, so do you still think I'm reaching? Okay, and before anyone comes for me in the comments, the Christians in the audience will know about a ton of analogous portrayals of the Christ, Chronicles of Narnia being a titular example. And if you're not a Christian, you must at least be able to admit that the similarities are uncanny. Okay, so what I'm going to argue for here is that Superman shows us our relationship to things like authority and power and goodness. And I think we see a lot of this borne out in the relationship between him and his parents. We can sort of see the alien parents like the power and godlikeness, and we can see the earthly parents as the humanity. Still don't believe me? Okay, out of the three things I mentioned, which one best describes Henry Cavill's Superman? And which of Superman's parents did they character assassinate in Man of Steel? It's fine, my son who has super speed and super strength. I'll just stay here and aura farm while a tornado takes me away. For context, this version of John Kent says that it might be better to let a bus full of school kids die rather than show his powers. So,
What did he say?
As a result of this, Zack Snyder's Superman is more super than man, and the Man of Steel series is a more cynical look at power. Now, what does this also map onto roughly? In the 2000s and early 2010s, we seem to have seen a ton of jaded superhero adaptations. And this seems to be reflecting what's going on in the broader culture at the time. The 2000s are definitely a decade of pessimism after the era of optimism in the 90s and the crash of 9/11, for instance. And we see this in Superman. Because of the severed relationship between him and his earthly parents, we have more of an emphasis on the power and authority which we've conceptualized as the alien parents. So Superman in Zack Snyder is a vision of power and not of hope. That's why all of the movies are dealing with how on earth is this guy so powerful? How do we keep him from being more powerful? Everybody's sort of unsure about Superman. Okay, but what does this have to do with James Gunn's Superman 2025? So the big reveal of the movie is that Superman's parents haven't actually sent him to Earth to help and to save it, but to rule over it and dominate it with a harem of women. I'm not kidding, I am almost quoting the script verbatim. So, by the end of the movie, he's totally rejected his alien parents and has totally embraced his earthly parents, who in this movie are, I think, as well character assassinated.
I'll go get him for you.
Also, if you are wondering why Superman seems super weak, here's your answer. This is also why I started this entire 5 minutes aside anyways, because Clark and Superman seem like they're blending into the same person, because there's no gravitas, there's no power, there's no authority. Even though John Kent has this big speech, him and Martha don't seem as smart or as integral to the story. Okay, so what do I think this means? This seems to be a rejection of power and authority, not only in the cosmic sense, but even on the human level. Because if you listen to John Kent's speech, he seems to give away his authority. Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's the first, but I'll let you make your own mind up about that. But yeah, overall, I would give this movie probably a 6.5 out of 10. And that's a pretty good rating coming from me. I definitely think you should go see it, and I'm really excited to see what else James Gunn comes up with in his new DC cinematic universe. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. Do you think I'm reaching? If you do, let me know in the comments down below. And while you're there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like the video. Fantastic Four is up next week, so I hope to see you there. Have a good one. Godspeed.